Setting up now. All right, welcome to Pins Down, session 5 for Parallelia. We are in Act 3, which is going to be a pretty, I think, intense, in a good way of like the climax rising. You've been following our journey for the last 2 months, working in the world that Marcia has been our fearless leader over the last 2 months. And I'm looking forward to this session. I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's see. And then Marcia, you can start. Second. So Marcia, feel free to kick it off.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Session 5. Oh, my God. So Tim isn't here, but Kat, you and I spoke about this last week. And I don't see Bryn, but it's in the new doc. So we are looking 6 months after the trial for the murder of Irene. And so I just want to make sure that everyone just kind of understands that timeline. So I pushed the year back to like just 1 year, but in reality, it's 6 months after the trial. And so I'll go ahead and begin. Nothing else has changed since the setup that I set out for you guys last week. But if there are any questions, obviously, just let me know. So I'll go ahead and read the prompt. While Micah's trial has ended with him being found innocent of Irene's murder, a woman who was rescued but was too far along into the digitization process to be saved by the Earthbound. Micah made the choice to push Irene out of the tank, killing her to protect the Earthbound and everything that they've built. That was his choice. That was, what he told the court. And he was actually found innocent for doing that. Some people agree with his decision and some don't. Instead of creating a divide within the community, Micah takes it upon himself to leave the Earthbound. A few miles away, he meets members of an independent community who have no desire to be Earthbound, but they are living and thriving themselves, Kaylee. And they invite Micah to stay with them for as long as he would like. And so he stays with them, for the 6 months after the trial. So that's where Micah has been after he left the Earthbound. He's been with Kaylee's people. So they invite Micah to stay with them for as long as he would like to because they know about him and respect him and all that other stuff, right? Okay. I say the next morning, but this is actually changing to 6 months later. Okay. Preston and a few other people track Micah down and tell him about the ambush that is about to take place. They learn this from Aunt Hart, who was told by a Silicon Raider who connected with her, named Syllble. So, Bryn, that is your character. Poya, who I think has had a very, very interesting journey throughout all of this. Finally gets a chance to turn the anger that she's had from losing her father, from all of the trauma that she's faced as a child up until now. She's still a very young child, a very young adult, but she's much stronger and much wiser now. She turns her anger towards Micah. She was extraordinarily angry at Micah for what he did, and projects it onto the Raiders who are about to come in and take what she knows is home. Um, she becomes very victorious by the end of the ambush, and thinking of her as just kind of like a hero, one of a really big hero after all of this is done. And the ambush is led by Ma 67. Uh, so he is going to be probably the most destructful person until he is triggered by something that makes him want to become earthbound. He always has like something in the back of his mind that's always pulling him towards becoming earthbound, and maybe that's also why he's so um, eager to see where they are and what and how they live, and maybe a bit uh, jealous or angry about that. Um, so the ambush doesn't give the earthbound much time to prepare. Many of the older members have flashbacks of what happened during that final raid that led them into the park in the first place. Fortunately, the Earthbound have some help from the independent community. So after they hear about what's happening, they come and they want to help out. They don't want to be Earthbound, but they absolutely don't want the Silicons to win. Um, and it is on one of the sunny, hot, scorching days that they haven't seen in a while, um, which makes everything that is made out of the black bark that is designed to protect the earthbound and make appear invisible, makes it dry out, so everything is being seen as it is, and it's raw metal, kind of that bronzish, browny kind of metal that they have made everything out with, um, including their suits, their guns, and their vehicles. Um, After Micah gets back into the park and he connects, the sky turns a dark gray and it starts to rain very, very heavily. Um, he is also given instructions to make sure that silicons are knocked into the soil where they would be pulled into the earth. So basically, the earth will swallow the silicons. Like after it starts to rain, after the soil becomes muddy and wet, when the silicons are knocked to the ground um, by these weapons, which I'm going to get to, they're actually going to start to sink into the earth. The earth will actually start to absorb them. Excuse me. Um, they'll pulled in and killed. That's how they'll die. Um, so the earthbound are guided by the communication of the earth. It has no language, has no words. It is best described as a feeling within. The earth communicates with the soul or the inner being of the person, guiding them to make decisions on what they need to do in order to survive. It tells them what food to grow and where to find it, tells them what sort of technology to invent and how to like find the minerals for it. And it tells and the education for it as well. It tells them what weapons to build and which are most effective, which in this case, which would be most effective um, to defeat Silicon, who are coming into the Earthbound um, camp and coming into like their living space now. Um, their physical weapons were created by Great Aunt Hart after connected and um, after she connected. Uh, she was also instructed to build a wrist-mounted gun that releases supersonic wind tunnels called HOW, called the HOW. And the HOW throws the raiders to the ground. Also weakens the power of their photo vault weapons, so they can't be used from a distance. But they can be used up close. Okay, so if you're fighting and silicon gets too close to you, yeah, you'll get injured or die, depending on what sort of photovolt weapon they have at you. Okay, so keep that in mind. Prior to Great Aunt Hart's invention, the Earthbound used weapons made from the black bark mineral. They had the ability to be invisible, like all things made from the mineral, and they were very effective. But the howl served another purpose. And it wasn't until the ambush happened that the earth spoke to Aunt Hart and told her why they would need to use them. So the howl weapon is being used during the ambush, and it is meant to knock the silicons to the ground so the earth swallows them as they like as you know, you're on the ground, you try to put your hands into the ground to just stabilize yourself and get up. But basically, once they're in the ground and they make contact with the soil, then they start to sink in. So the spirits of the earth basically destroy the silicon nanobots that block human emotion and heighten them so that they feel the same sort of pain that the earth feels when it is dying, as they're dying. Okay, so that is just my synopsis for what we are going, like our aim to basically the last. This is the last session, and then the next session will basically be maybe the next session will be the cleanup of the fight, and we'll go from there. Basically, how to move forward will be the next session. But this one is the fight. And so I kind of gave you guys like some direction. And yeah, so right before we start, please ask questions.
So, okay, so I have a question. Tim actually wanted me to somehow incorporate the black bark into my story.
So
and I was
sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking that because Preston has to come back and then leave again, she's given something sort of to defend herself. And I just wanted to make sure that, but it's sounding like the black bark isn't going to work.
So when you are, I think when Preston leaves, she is going with a couple of people, and the weapons are there, right? So maybe they do get word that the howls are something that they actually need to take with them. So you can take the guns or knives or whatever weapons you see fit that are made from black bark. And then you can also go ahead and get like a howl weapon or something like that. But the howls are mostly used when you're back inside the Earthbound camp.
So basically I think what my question is can the black bark be used as sort of like personal armor?
Oh, yeah. So the suits are made from the black bark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but cool. The only problem is that day until Micah gets back and until he connects, and then he makes after that connection, the sky turns really dark and it starts to rain buckets. It is extremely dry. So you can wear it, and maybe some of your suit is invisible, but it's drying out so quickly that it can't retain anything, that the water that it's needed to keep it invisible.
Okay, so I what I'm mostly thinking is she's given a piece of body armor made out of this stuff. Would it stop her from being injured? I can work with it not being like the invisibility part. I can work with that. I guess my question is, even though Micah's not connected.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, yeah, you can assume that it can stop you from being injured up until a degree. It's armor, but it's
Okay.
not right. It does a
Okay.
lot for you, but it doesn't. It won't stop like you know if you get
Yeah.
sliced in half like by a photo vault,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, but
Cool,
yeah,
cool.
it has some protection
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. 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 And
And we got this document, right? Fabrice, you just sent it to everybody. So I'm just gonna have to review the timeline a little bit, but I'll do that on my
Okay.
own.
Oh yeah, Tim. Let's do this. We can do it really quickly, but so the timeline is the ambush actually takes place 6 months after the trial.
We've moved another 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the ambush, because we want Micah actually being like settled in and kind of living with the other outside community for a while, and maybe he finds a little bit of peace or something there. But we're going to move it just 6 months after. So basically, it would probably be about a year after the murder or the rescue mission happened, right? So yeah, okay.
Okay, so it's like a whole different, we're at like a whole different, starting a new scene, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
So one of my questions is, so you had mentioned sending me the ritual for connecting to the earth with the earthbound, and that kind of stuff for the story. I might just put in a placeholder for that, for the actual words that need to
Oh
be
wait,
there.
did I not send that to you?
Unless you have quick access to it. Don't
Yeah,
worry
let
about
me-
it if you don't.
I'll actually send it to you, and I'll actually send that to everyone because I'm sorry, I really thought that I did. Okay.
That's all right.
I like the idea that it's 6 months ahead. It kind of relieves a little bit of tension. So now we can okay, so the trial is passed. Micah left. Now he's coming back, and now there's going to be an invasion, and it's going to be all out war, and that's what we're going to be writing in. I like what you said. You said so you're giving us free range in terms of how to mold the black bark, so we can create a weapon if we'd like. I think that.
Yeah. So black bark, it's a lot like the photo vaults, where it can be made in the shape of, a really great knife that maybe has like triple-edged swords. It depends on you. But it has, it's a gun. It's a knife. It's I don't know, a ball and chain. It can be a lot. The thing is that you're making, you can have a weapon, but just understand that for the silicon side, if you're using it as a photo vault, then this weapon is something that is like shooting electricity, so even if you had it as like a long whip or something like that, it's like an electrical kind of lighted whip, or you have it as an axe. It's an electric axe. If you're on the silicon side, it is anything you want. But remember, on that day that it's hot, so maybe the handle that you're holding is visible, but the blade on the side that only you know about might be invisible. So those are things to think about.
Cool. So my guys are using this like a photo vault.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I
got free range to come up with that one, huh?
Well, yeah, you do. Also, and I'll put it back in here just so that everyone can kind of go back and forth. I know this is supposed to be our pens down, and it's supposed to be pretty quick, but it's I guess when you go back and into the editing process of it, please take a look at the continuity sheet, because that has a lot of the information
Yeah.
that
All right.
we need to like, bring the story together.
All right.
So I'll go ahead and put that in there as well. And also put in the connectivity for the Earthbound. And just like real quick, so the Earthbound basically put their hands and they get on their hands and their knees, they pretty much dig their feet into the soil, they push their hands into the soil. It's almost like a transient sort of state that they go into. And you close your eyes and it just sort of happens. It's a transient state that you go into it. But some people can connect and some people can't, but the characters who can connect really well. And the best way that it can be described is that the earth is just like talking to them. They're not themselves. They're not conscious of like whatever it is that they're, whatever being they are. It's the earth moving through them. So, I mean, I guess let's say that their eyes are closed. And I wanted to give it, I know that it sounds really vague, so I'm trying to like make it a bit more solid. So their eyes are closed, their hands and their feet are in the dirt. They are not aware. And I think that I wanted to add, I want to add color to it. And Brent, I'm sorry about this. But so I also wanted to just give it like, so maybe they do see different lights, So I think in the case of Aunt Hart, maybe her light is like an orange kind of golden sort of light that tells her that she sees when she's in that transient sort of state. And she can express what it tells her after she comes out of it. If that makes sense, and I'll go ahead and send that to you in writing as well. Yeah. Okay. Fabrice?
All right. Are we here, everyone? So we will begin. So for Act 3, I was talking with Marsha, and I think everyone has expressed this as well. And in the last few sessions, I think we've had like maybe 30 to 40 minutes of writing. So we haven't necessarily been hitting the full hour. So we will be writing for an entire full hour.
Holy cow.
So we have the chance to really express and deepen our connection in these flash stories. Make sure to pick your spot. I put the link on the chat, and we will start. Let's see. We will start at 8:30. So in 2 minutes, we won't start right now. We'll start at 8:30, and we'll stop at 9:30 a.m. At least that's from my Pacific time.
Okay. So we'll stop at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Kaylee, I know it's just an hour for you. Yeah. Okay.
And for everyone who are new and tuning in from YouTube and the Facebook, because I just posted it, we are writing in the Penzan world, in the Parallelia world, through this production cycle at Syllable called Pens Down, and it will be culminating in a micro novel, which is a collaborative novel written by many writers, which we're excited to produce and work on and see this world brought to light. So 1 more minute. I think I'm going to claim the second one.
Okay, so I guess I have spot 1 then. I wasn't gonna claim one because my internet was acting stupid, but it's better now.
Okay.
Okay.
Super. All right. We are so we are starting.
Righty.
Okay.
Boom. Hey, Fabrice, I just lost a whole bunch of text.
Oh, 1 second. Let's see. How about now?
Still going, man.
For some reason, I see.
Just the last stuff I'd worked on just suddenly disappeared on me.
Try to do the undo.
Yeah, how do you do that again?
You go on the
Control
top
what?
left corner.
Control Z?
Yes.
Control Z, got it. Cool, got it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. 15-minute warning, everyone. All right, pins down. Pins down. Can stop the writing. All right, who wants to go first in reading? We'll have about 30 minutes, so be mindful of time to read. So we won't be able to read all the stories.
With a couple things, I make mention of something called the greenhouse in Project Genesis. That's from my first story at the end that I didn't exactly get to share with everyone.
Mhm.
Project Genesis is like Micah created a farm underground, basically growing crops in under UV light, and the greenhouse is where he grows a specific herb that is used for the medicine that is helping. I'm not gonna say cure Preston's cystic fibrosis, but it's alleviating her symptoms. So just gotta put that out there. Okay.
Or do you want to copy and paste your story? I know you're working on a different document.
I can.
Maybe so we can follow along. If not, no worries. We're happy. It's on
Okay.
the writer one in the document.
Okay. Let's see if anyone wants to cooperate today. That's the main reason why I didn't. I wasn't trying to fight with the internet today. Yeah. Okay, cool. Writer one. Control D.
Anybody else want to go? While we're...
What did you say? Oh, there she is.
I got it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool.
Okay. It's been 6 months since Micah left. Anywhere else in the park feels hollow without him, so I stay where his presence is felt the most. I don't wander too far from the greenhouse or Project Genesis. We've outgrown the need for crops grown under ultraviolet light, but it's cool and it's quiet and no one stares at me when I'm down here. I've been watching after Malik since Micah left. He asked a lot of questions when his father first left, questions I couldn't bring myself to answer. Instead of answering him, I tell him the fantastical stories of what his father did to save us, to mold us, and to make sure we thrive. I think he prefers the stories over worrying if he's going to see his father again. We have a routine that we go through every day. We wake up, we visit the ritual tree, we slide out of our shoes and let our feet sink into the moist earth under the shade of the ancient oak tree. We practice letting the earth speak to us and through us. I could feel it, the tug just behind my belly button that pulled me closer, deeper. I saw the light, and it was beautiful. Preston stood next to the playground, watching Malik and Aaron as they frolicked. She smiled as the boys looked up at her, but she was worried. Her connection to the earth has gotten weaker. The sacred herb treatments that she has been getting since she came to the park weren't working as well. The ground around the ritual tree was drying up. Those that remained loyal to Micah knew that these were harbingers of something bad about to happen. The Earthbounds were losing their connection to the earth because of Micah's exile, and they had to bring him back. Back in my day, all we had to play with were boulder sticks in our imagination, Sloan said as he approached Preston. He was wearing full body armor made of the black bark and had an M16 strapped to his back. She grimaced as she watched her younger brother walk up. Things have changed since then. I certainly can't keep up with you anymore. Preston gave Sloan's get up a disapproving look before turning back to Malik and Aaron. She hadn't been spending as much time with him since he became a member of Hannibal's elite guard. He had been working to find ways to fortify the park while Preston has been trying to preserve the way Micah had laid before them. I didn't come here to fight. I need your help. You need my help or Hannibal needs my help? I'm asking you. There's a raid going to happen soon. Don't ask me how I know. I just do. Thing is, the black bark isn't working anymore and no one knows why. I think Micah's the answer to this, but no one will take me seriously. You backed the wrong horse, little brother. Don't expect me to fix it for you. Preston turned her back to Sloane and
Did something happen?
Hello? The cat?
You might have
Oh
lost.
her internet might have dropped out.
I can hear
Get into the
you.
good part.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. You can hear us?
Yeah, maybe the internet.
Bummer.
Does someone else want to finish the last two paragraphs?
Yeah, why don't you go, Bill? Why don't you?
Oh, okay. Started over to where the boys were playing. She wanted to help, but didn't think she could make it very far without the continuous treatment from the greenhouse. By the way, Kat, if you are able to talk, go ahead and interrupt me and continue if you can. She picked
You
up
guys hear
Aaron.
I just heard her.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we
Okay,
can.
yeah.
Now we can.
Now we can hear. We can hear you now.
Good Lord. Super internet. All right.
It's a silicon world.
Mm.
I will. Okay, what I'm gonna say, Kat, we can't hear you, so I will say, Bryn, if you want to finish the
Yeah,
two.
why don't you just?
Sorry, Kat.
Okay, sorry. She picked up Aaron, who had turned bright red under the bright sun, and took Malik by the hand. They walked back toward the greenhouse, with Sloane walking several paces behind them. The rumble of the armored personnel carrier stopped Preston in her tracks. The vehicle, which was once decked out in pristine black bark, was covered in dents and scorch marks. The men that poured out of the back were injured, most with scrapes and bruises, some with deep electrical burns. Sloane talked to the driver. I'm sure it's going somewhere from there.
Super. Thank you.
Awesome.
That was very, very cool. Really well written. Carried that action. Gave lots of like character insights, motives, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was really cool.
Kat, I hope you can hear me. I really, I think you took the black bark problem to like another level. And I really like that. Instead of it just kind of, yes, it's a hot day, but for some reason it's not working and there's like a mica connection there to it. So I'm going to be kind of updating my part of the story to it. And you and I should, I guess, me and everyone will work about like, you know, how Micah connects with their character. But yeah,
Yeah,
I hope you can hear us. I really love it, Kat. I hope you can hear us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
where
really.
is that? Did she disappear?
No, it's
No,
the
she has
internet.
connectivity issues.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she can hear us. We
okay,
can't hear
okay.
her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, it's really cool. Really cool. Great feel for it. The language, just the tone of it is works really well.
The world building as well. I feel
Yeah.
like I really like what she did with the world building.
Totally.
Who wants to go next? I'm happy to go next, but whoever wants to go next. Bryn?
I think mine actually comes next chronologically, or at least close to it.
Okay.
I mean, not in the order of the document, but chronologically and within the story.
Okay. And thank you, Kat. Appreciate that.
Mine, I'm going to have to edit out a little bit from my previous stories, but that's fine. The search for the Earthbound encampment lasted half a year. Another newscast came from the center of the Earthbound camp, thrusting Syllble into yet another projection. This time, the reporter spoke in low tones, putting a counter at the top right of her HUD. This is how long we will have to share resources with these meat walkers. The timer ticked down from 24 hours. The fountain behind the reporter was still. Green blotched water staining the inside. Syllble couldn't feel any of it. There was no pit of despair for the imminent extinction of her parents living lives as earthbound. The important bit was that she knew she should feel, even if she didn't. The newscast flickered back to the nature setting she had requested to live in. The birds descended from the leaves, landing on her shoulders. But the simulation was on repeat. The same scarlet tanager would sit on the same branch every few hours. It was just a capture of what the Earth had been before the battle between Silicons and Earthbound had raged. Any Earthbound would tell her it was the Silicon's fault that the Earth was wasted, and any Silicon would tell her it was the Earthbound's fault the Earth was wasted. Each was equally right in their reasoning. She couldn't fathom why either wanted to destroy the other. Protocol said she couldn't exit digitization without authorization. It was the only way to warn the Earthbound. She'd have to reclaim her body and find a way to the Earthbound camp. Unfortunately, she was registered. The system would alert a monitor and she would be sent straight back into the Silicon world. Only, she couldn't really explain how she knew that. It wasn't a memory or knowledge she had learned when she was in Earthbound. She willed herself to search into her body. While she had no emotion, the Silicons had made one mistake. Along with no emotion, they removed her fear. What was the worst they could do to her? Death would be a reprieve from this unfeeling husk. The switch was instantaneous. Inside her body, everything was dark. She flipped her HUD to night vision. The room lit up. She was hooked up from the back. Her feet dangled down below, a few feet between her and the metal floor. There were hundreds of others hooked the same way. It was like they were clothes hanging, waiting to be worn by their users. She reached her arm around. There was a hook going through her raider suit. Putting both hands above her, she lifted herself up over the sharp edge of the hook until she fell to the ground. Taking a few steps forward into the greenish haze of the night vision, she found a door. She reached for the handle, expecting it to be locked, but she was able to turn it. The door swung open, a dull light trickling into the room. With the flick of her finger, she turned off the night vision. There lay orange rocky earth with canyons rising on either side. She stepped forward, and the buildings behind her disappeared to reveal a canyon wall. Her hand shot up instinctively to her comms, but the button was gone. All she wore was the white of the Silicon Raiders, but her helmet and photovolt blaster were gone. She turned back to the orange rocky earth, walking in the only direction she could. A woman stood in her way with black and white hair, the orange particles from the desert mixing in with it to make her hair take on an almost reddish tint. She faced away from Syllble, her hands clasped behind her back. "This is the third time you've called me, child," the lady said. "My comms are off." The lady shuffled her feet until she was facing Syllble. "I've wondered," she said, lifting a finger from the back behind her back. "Why would a Silicon Raider be able to get in touch with the Earth?" "In touch with the Earth?" Syllble asked. She rubbed her eyes. "This doesn't make sense. Maybe this is the monitor thing. I know I wasn't supposed to switch to my Silicon Raider body without permission. If you want to go back to the Silicon world, I'm not one to stop you," the lady said. "Just stop calling me." The lady shuffled away from the canyon. And she's going to eventually kind of talk a little bit more with Aunt Hart there, but it's more just Syllble and Aunt Hart are very confused by this encounter.
Yeah, I really like it, Brian. Syllble, like, I love the way that you filled in that part of how Syllble gets back into her human body and what everything looked like. Like, there are so many different ways that the Silicons are storing things and are doing things, but this just like uncovers another part of that. So thank you for that. Oh my God, I really love the way that you introduce on Heart. You know,
Oh,
She's
that's who
she's
that
she's
was.
she's about her business. I like what why are you calling me? Like in this the connectivity of it all. So yeah, great. I'm excited to see the rest.
Yeah, I want to say something. Yeah, I think I liked it a lot too. I like him. I literally saw the bodies dangling on the hook,
Mhm.
like somewhere in a secret base where they're literally gonna zap someone's software consciousness back into her body. And then I like the world building in terms of just like the back and forth that you're sort of demonstrating that people go through, which yeah, to echo what Marsha, yeah, great work.
And you put her into on Heart's atmosphere of connectivity with the colors. I appreciate that. And also there's something that you said about they've also removed her fear. Um yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. They also removed her fear. Which is something that we didn't really talk about until now. And I think that's the most important part of this session is the removal of fear. Like no one has anything else left to lose. Awesome.
Yeah, very, very, very cool, Bryn. I would say maybe the only thing is just kind of maybe tighten it up a little, just kind of move it along a little bit faster. That's all. But that freaking throwing in great Ant Heart at the that was like whoa, totally trippy, man. So yeah, really cool, really cool.
Super.
Should I go next, or should we get an Earthbounder next?
Let me let me go
Okay.
now because I kind of
We'll
go
go back
into
and forth, right? Yeah, cool.
yeah,
That's
let
good.
me I wanted to I'll go next. So I didn't go back to edit because usually I try to do that, but okay, so I'll just start reading. This is from the Journal of Poya. I did the same sort of epistolary bricolage as that one. So I sat down in the middle of a large opening field inside the earthbound encampment dome. I couldn't be there for too long. I had a mask over my face. I had lava brewing inside of me, deep anger at the Machiavellian ways of Micah. His ways of the elders I didn't understand. Things always moving to the unknown all the time, all the goddamn time here. This secrecy in the earthbound needed to change. It will be the end of us. I had not forgiven him for killing Irene. Even she wanted it to happen. The only thing I could do was to lay down my mind and follow this anger that had grown like wild flaming weeds over the last 6 months. I knew that I knew that the way of the earthbound and the planet that we so deeply cherish was at the world's end and its new beginning. I knew everything I did was for a higher power. If we didn't change as a people, if we didn't evolve as a people, the silicons, all of them would absorb us and we will all be placed in a digital world of madness. The only thing I knew that would restore my connection to our people, to the future that I sought so deeply, my meditation practice, pranic breath, the same way my father taught me. We would sit together across New Mexico in Arizona, at least what was left of this place, death, desert cities, dust bowl, and horrible storms with lightning, empty cars, and abandoned cities. Every rest stop we would find in a corner, especially when we were searching for these people, the earthbound. Father really believed in them. I did too. I did too. I also thought it could be a new world, a promised land. We would close our eyes. We would breathe deeply together. He took care of me as a young girl. Now that I believed in Micah, he was the father figure for me after father passed away. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. It was then I saw a deep light that came from the center of the earth. It was a light that moved through my body with all the breath that I took. This light I did not imagine. I couldn't explain it completely. My hair moved to the side where there was a gust that entered where I rested. It was then within the same flash of energy seemingly came from each corner of the world. I saw a slew of helicopters with the Sphinx symbol of the Silicon Raiders. This was the first time I had such vision. I knew father had them before, but me, I knew in my gut something was wrong. I got up fast and began running across the compound to go to the elders' council and tell them that the enemy was arriving soon, that I had the earth connection, but they would believe me. Would they trust me after the divided fallout from Micah's way? Then from the horizon, I saw many small black dots on the sky. And then suddenly the sound reached my ears, not ears, This is code red. I repeat, code red. The Silicon Raiders, I shouted on top of my lungs, and fear began to creep inside of me. Fear paralyzed me momentarily. What would I do? What could I do? There were women and children running in front of me. The sky had turned dark with cold winds brewing between us. Then the worst happened. The helicopters were right above us. Some of the Earthbound had climbed to the borders of the camp and began shooting a large laser-powered gun by the Black Bart. We managed to shoot one of them down, but it wasn't enough. Right behind the helicopters, there were strange planes in the back. And when I got up to the top of the border of our camp, I placed my binoculars and saw a slew of armored white trucks that had disturbed the dust and sand moving, and the sand moving in the far horizon. I gulped. We need to secure the Earthbound camp now, I told one of the generals who trained the youth in physical combat. He looked at me with the scar on his forehead and nodded at me. Leon, come here now. I need you to man this laser gun now. He pointed to one of the young kids that had a ripped blue shirt. How could this child even fight? But this could be our last battle. They were coming in every corner of the horizon, and they were not holding back. It was then a helicopter with its gigantic wings passed over me, and I held onto my shirt and hair, squinting and screaming, fuck, this can't be happening right now. I ran down the stairs back to the ground, and a large rope was falling to the floor from the helicopters, and bodies of soldiers with wild helmets and large guns distended fast in front of them. You could hear the blast of guns. When I approached one of them, they ran towards me, and I slid to the ground. I tackled them on their feet. I got up and blocked the punch they gave towards me and took one of their guns and shoot, but it wouldn't work. It was deactivated. It seemed that their guns were connected to their system. I had to get to the armory. I looked left and right. Valerie was hit in the arms. She was blasted with a large gun and blood was all over the floor. I ran towards her, but it was too late. I looked back and tears began to drip down my face. When I made it to the armory, there were people screaming and crying, children and old people who had been hurt by the invasion of our camp. Don't they have any humanity, these silicons? I said out loud, looking at her people. Someone help my little Junior. She is battle hurt, an older person said. It was a large open space. I heard gunshots, and the only thing I could think about was my anger for Micah. But this had to be set apart. This was life or death. I took her band wrap and ripped from my shirt and tied it around my forehead. There needed to be something done about this. We needed to push back. I believed in the earth. I believed the messages and visions that the future would be the world that we would create. It never said that obstacle like this would get in our way. I got up in the metal table and screamed, "Who can fight?" I looked around and everyone was either scared, crying, or staying in a corner, working their bodies and their hands behind their back. "Who can fight?" I said again, but no one listened. It was right this moment that I closed my eyes and visualized the light that had given me the vision of the Silicon Raiders' arrival and uttered in a stream. The Earthbound. We, the people of the Earthbound, we stand for something. We are the rebirth of the dying world. We have the mother of the planet below our feet, and in us, we have the power to vanquish the enemies. Remember this time. Remember when we stood against the evils of time, the evils of this era, people mad who want to move us to a spiritless digital world and kill us. It was then some of them looked up and began to rise. We have to fight for the future generations in a new world that has yet to be born. So I can repeat, I repeat, who can fight? There was an echo and I could feel the vibration that was released from my body, and they began to scream and shout. Then we lined up and passed around the swords and weapons made from the Black Bart. We opened the door in the back, and about 36 of us moved in silent in the back as the sky darkened even more and began our retaliation. We knew if we didn't try, if we didn't give it our best, the world would cease to exist. There were soldiers moving into hand-to-hand combat. I pushed and punched in the chest with the Black Bart knuckle that turned off their robots. Half of their bodies were all robotic. They have slowly become brainless and sold their dreams of the Silicons to be cattle. But more and more helicopters came, more and more soldiers with white bodies and mass descended. We were losing. It was then the earth began to rumble. It was then the ground moved and waved and my feet fell to the floor. This light that led me, it showed me. It grabbed their feet and began to swallow the soldiers one by one. That was a little long, but
Whoa. For Reese, so there's like a little bit of continuity, but more so, I love the direction that you took Poya into. I said that I wanted her to be someone who is, victorious and seen as a leader. And, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Like, she is not going to be forgotten for this. She is absolutely the, give her the Purple Heart and all the badges. She's the general at this point. And yeah, that's all I can say. That's all I can say. I really love it. It's just like I guess we're gonna have to figure out a way to get those drones out of the sky. We can use the howls to do that also. But yeah, man, I'm digging this one. I'm digging this one a lot.
Epic. Totally epic. Yeah. Great voice. So distinct. Your voice
Yeah.
is very distinct. It's almost got like this kind of like a oral storytelling kind of vibe to it, right? As opposed to like a cinematic vibe. All right. So it's a different tone. But I think that really, that's cool because it gives such distinct voices to each character and each element. So yeah, I thought that was very cool, very epic.
super. Thank you. Thank you. I am looking at the time, so I don't know if we'll have time to read all the stories, just to respect 2 hours. So I'm not sure what.
So I don't have to read. What I will say is that, Tim, if you want to read, Kayla, if you want, or I know Kayla usually doesn't like to read, but Tim, if you want to read, like, you can do the last story. But all I want to say is that I'll like reach out to everyone individually, just so that you can see where your characters line up with mine and where we're going. But so far, everyone seems to be right on track, and I really like the directions that everyone has taken their characters in. So we'll do the continuity part, but as far as like direction, yeah.
You guys are again way ahead of me. I'm always about the build up, never about the action.
Well, yeah, well, I'm doing the build up part too, Tim. So, but we'll get there. So
yeah.
go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, the first part is it's a bit brutal, warning and all that shit. But
Yeah.
It's a flashback. Okay, so we open up with a flashback, right? 2 days later, he did visit him. Owen, that is. Owen is like the guy who recruited him. FYI, in case you haven't read the previous part. Found him at the flat he had shared with his sister and now a bunch of other folks. Hippie Okies from Bakersfield, Earthbound commune. A couple of brothers and their friend. Looked to him like a bunch of drifters in need of a place to crash. Jerry, Law 67, tried to tell them the truth, what was really happening with the world, how they had to forget that earthbound nonsense and get with the silicons, how that was the only way out. They ignored him. He got sick of it and walked out the door. A smoky gray Tesla waited at a streetlight. The window rolled down. Yo, Jerry. It was the new Owen. Get in, man. Let's check out this city. He drove down the darkened streets, every third street light still sending out a sickly yellow light. There were crowds around, streetwalkers in short skirts and cartoonish makeup, Johns lurking in rental cars, beat down Priuses, the occasional Ferrari hover car. Maybe you're wondering why I came out to see you, Owen turned to him, toothpick rolling between his lips. Jerry, Moss 67 nodded. Owen nodded, eyes back on the road. Well, let me tell you, we see some real potential in you. I'm just going to say that here and now. We see potential. Jerry couldn't believe what he was hearing. Potential in him? Nobody ever saw potential in him. People barely saw him at all. Hey, tell me if I've read this before. If I haven't, okay, cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, kid. So raw potential, you got it, any side. But I don't know, man. I got my doubts. Jerry stayed quiet as they cruised down Hollywood Boulevard. I don't know. You might still be that same soft pussy you were when I met you. Getting all soft for a dead dog. He snorted. Well, let's see. Scanned the sidewalk as they rolled by. Then pulled the Tesla over to the curb beside a figure a lone woman, streetwalker. That's the one, Owen said, as Jerry stared at the young lady, tragically skinny legs sticking out of her short miniskirt, tank top protruding with unbelievably large breasts. Yeah, this is the one. What are we doing here? Jerry stammered. Owen reached into his jacket, came out with a 45 Winchester automatic. That girl? Owen nodded towards the girl on the side of the road, who was looking at them nervously. Jerry nodded. Yeah? Take this Peaks and Waster. Jerry stared at the gun, joking. Owen stared at him. What makes you think I'm joking? I am not joking. Take the gun. Why? Owen stared at him through deep blue eyes. Why? Am I speaking another language? Am I speaking like Swahili or Korean or some shit? I said, take this gun, get out of the car, and drop that bitch to the ground. Well, why? There is no why. The why is everything. Why is that bitch taking up oxygen that we need to sustain the planet? That woman is eating the food that we need, breathing air that we need to sustain civilization so we can make progress to the great silicon heaven. And that little meat walker is miserable and hungry and carrying all kinds of diseases. We're doing the world a favor. You hear me? Get out there and waste that bitch. Jerry fumbled the automatic into his jacket pocket, opened the door, strength draining from his legs as he stepped into the cool night onto the sidewalk. He was older than she had originally looked, but he couldn't have been more than 30. She looked like his sister, Tina. She smiled as he approached her. Hey, you looking for anything? He stood quietly before her as Owen's car door opened behind him. A moment later, felt the officer's hand on his shoulder, heavy, solid, powerful. You know what you got to do, bud. He watched the girl's face turn to terror as he took the automatic out of his pocket, hands reaching skyward. I'm not doing anything. I don't got any money. What are you doing? Boy, do what your officer orders. The girl stared at him, her eyes wide, her face white. Oh my God, no, please don't, please don't. I'm taking care of my little brothers. Don't. I'm the only one between them and the streets and the brothels. Please don't hurt me. Tears burned in his eyes, and he started to waver and thought he might collapse. Do it, Jerry, do it, he heard Owen say, as if from a great distance. He stared at the girl over the barrel of a 45. Her face. It was her. No. He woke with a gasp, scratching, the sheets wet with sweat, wrapped around him, and no idea where he was. Sitting up, head pounding, the ever-present ringing in his ears, a muffled drone. He rubbed his eyes, tried to squeeze the image of her face from his vision, then lay back down on the thin mattress and stared into the gray darkness of his barrack cell as his breathing slowed. And he told himself, I can't go on. His body had never really recovered from that last attack on the Earthbounders some 6 months earlier. That blast had left him with a permanent headache and ringing in his ears, but more, it left him afraid of what might lay around the next corner, afraid of what might fall out of the sky. Enough, he told himself angrily as he took a deep breath and rolled off the bunk, the metal frame squealing in protest. No wallowing in self-pity. You are a Silicon Raider. You are Moth 67, the most celebrated Raider warrior in years, leader of Predator Green, the most effective crew to ever stalk the wastelands of the great American desert. Why did he feel so afraid? His white uniform glowed dimly in the dawn light as he dressed. Dim light, and light again, hiding the tremor in his hands as he buckled the black plaster leather belt. Today was it. The war plans were drawn up. High Command had given the green light for the biggest assemblage of material of the vast Silicon war machine in decades. They had Micah in their sights, and this time no mistakes, no underestimations, no foolish errors. This time they would get that meat walker bastard and end this BS really once and forever. Boots on, he stood tall, squared his shoulders, and prepared to face his squad. You are Mall 67. Ooh-ah. Daggis grinned at him as he approached the rallying point, his eyes meth bright and wired, a jolly sociopath standing around with the other squad leaders with cups of soy coffee, steaming in the morning chill. How you doing, old Mozzie? Ready to kick that bastard Micah's ass today? The other squad leaders grinned with evil humor as he entered the huddle, nudging each other in the ribs. Yeah, what do you say, Mozzie? The big black-haired psycho Riddle, head of some other crew, smirked. Micah gonna get you one last time? Leave you crying in the desert with another little girl? Wall 67 raised both middle fingers at the group and grabbed his uniform in the area of his groin. First Micah, then you, Zaggis. Zaggis had led the team that rescued Moss 67 and that little Cherokee girl. What was her name again? Zaggis and his Badlands Blue crew. Moss 67 remembered the bonfire they had made of that camp, throwing live meat walkers into the vast flames. The image of Zaggis tossing that screaming baby into the flames. That same grin split in his pasty white face. Zaggis raised his hands, opening and closing it like a puppet. Words, Mozzie, lots of words. Mark 67 launched himself at the grinning bastard, but the others grabbed him and held him back. General Owen cleared his throat as he approached, and the squad leaders fell into immediate attention. Owen was wearing the meat of a strapping African man in his late 40s, tall, burly, with fierce eyes. He grinned with pride at the assembled leaders. "I'd like to see a little vigor in my men and ladies," he nodded at Juru 9 and Ahide. "I don't need to tell you how important this day is. I know you all know that we have been through chasing this meat-walking bastard Mike and its straggly-ass crew around these wastelands for years. But it all ends today. Today, we, the Silicon Raiders of the 144th Western Division, Predator, Badlands, a couple other names, we ride to victory." Huas roared from the crowd as they made their way to the troop carriers. They were in a no man's land that had once been called Silicon Valley, Moss 67 recalled, as they rode through the hills, rolling hills, desiccated, lifeless, bleached, a washed out shade of pink. Silicon Valley, where all the mighty corporate empires had been born before they decamped for the paradise of Kinshasa or Ushuaia. To his left, the Pacific Ocean would appear through the gaps in the hills, crowded in gray haze, vast, limitless. What lay out there? China, Japan? Silicon Raiders were out there fighting the Manchukos and the Russian Orthodox Army of the Apocalypse he knew, and which he had been sent there to fight, even if it was a slaughterhouse. Anything would be better than this hell that had once been the USA, this battered, lifeless husk, chasing the man Micah. Man? He wasn't a man, he was a ghost, demon, a virus. Yeah, that's what he was. And that's it. Sorry, that was a little long. Sorry about that.
The passion. Wow.
Yeah.
This is Tim, I
He's so
think
not unfeeling. Like, Bryn's character is so unfeeling. Mine is like the opposite. Right?
no, I like that. I like how you've sort of defined the worldview of the Silicon Raiders for us and how they see the world. And I think it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Is it too harsh, the opening? I mean, I was a little concerned about that. Maybe it's a little brutal.
No, they're killing people and digitizing their bodies. So
All right.
great.
So yeah, okay.
Did you mean the flashback part?
Yep.
Because okay, so I see what you mean. But at the same time, like, I mean, tailor it to however you are comfortable. But I see what you did there, which was what I was trying to do with Michael and the other act, which was to go into the past and do the psychology of why this person could become this, or why this person thinks in that way.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with that. Because it also it's about the development of why he goes after Malik, Micah's son. Like, also he is someone who had a heart before it was pushed to the brink.
Totally. So he's got to
right. Yeah.
But we're still not at the end.
Still not there, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
For sure.
I know not everyone is on, or people had to go and it's really long, and so I'll just say this. For the next act, I really wanted it to be the wrap up of the ambush where the Silicons are, pretty much die, or whoever dies, Ma will die, but also Ma comes back. And I kind of want you to think about, like, because I'm thinking about the way that Ma comes back. So you and I will talk more about that.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah. So the last one will be more of the reconciliation between Micah and the Earthbound, and the new roles that developed out of this, as what happens with every shakeup. So Poya's new position, Preston's new position, maybe even, Bren and I will work on his character and how Syllble may actually become, human if she wants, or she may actually stay and become like a different part of the Earthbound, which is like now the new bridge to the Silicons, and we might see something come out of that. And Kaylee, for your community, like what's next for them, and really like think about like what's next, not the ending basically, but what's next, what ends this chapter between the people who are living in a digitized world and the people who are really trying to save the planet, the earth that we're on right now.
I will stop the live recording.